Marhaba, and welcome to the Matrix Green Pill, where real people connect.
Hello, and welcome back to the Matrix Green Pill podcast. My name is Shireen Zemo, and today I am excited to welcome our guest week, Michele Risa. Michele is the CEO and founder of Collaborative Solutions. She works with thought leaders and influencers to help them identify their deepest aspirations and embody consciousness in such a way that they become a natural change agent in a world that needs their talents, heart, and intelligence. I don't want to give away too much, so let's hear from Michele herself. Michele, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure doing this with you.
Michele, to start off, could you please share a little backstory about yourself?
Okay. I would say my backstory is I'm a New Yorker. I live in Manhattan, New York. I did both undergraduate at New York University and graduate at Columbia University. So I guess I really like Manhattan a lot. My last job was at Citibank, and I realized that was really not my destiny. So thank you, Citi. And I then began an inner journey. I began a practice with Yogi Bhajan, who at that time was the master of Kundalini Yoga. It's one of the many branches of the original types of yoga. And I'll just share, he gave me an insight that lasted a lifetime, which was God is within you. And this is the early 90s. And I'm like, interesting. I took that to heart, to imagine what that would be. And as he challenged me to be a yoga teacher, I quickly turned it into 3 and 6 month programs called Creating Lasting Change. And that continues to be my foundation to this day, meaning programs that really last, that have sustainability, right? That are holistic. And given our polarized planet, I include programs that build trust and connection, belonging, collaboration, which results in greater productivity and impacts the bottom line. So that seems to be the thread. I hope that helps.
No, absolutely. And like you rightfully said, we're definitely going to dive more into all the mentioned. I'm curious to know more about the journey, though, from Citi to becoming the CEO and founder and president. So could you share some moments in your life that indicated that this was where you were meant to be?
When I say I began the inner journey, that really changes how you see the world. It just does. You never know who you are because thank goodness, and I pray, we are always changing. That's what I want to do. But being present enough to know, here is who I am now. And with that clarity, additional clarity, because I was very successful at Citi and I had been very successful at corporations, combining that inner wisdom and confidence and clarity really helps us see and interact differently in the world. I would say and I'll jump to now, I see the chaos and the crises before us as, quite frankly, simply because it's happening. And I say, it's perfect. And what can I glean from that? So when I work with corporations, any of what's going on is perfect for us to see. And then clearly with a process, and we all have our processes, where we can look at new ways, new solutions. And again, I'm very holistic and sustainable to address those that work in the moment, work short and long term, and work for the people in the company. That shift from only outer, our society says, produce your numbers, be very successful, quote unquote, outside. Combining this inner foundation just makes my whole life and everything I do have a very different sensitivity, I'll just say how I listen to people. Whereas before I was more talking and advising. So it's just a different approach to people and to all of what I do. Does that make any sense?
Yes, absolutely. It does sound extremely fascinating. And you did mention that you have also studied with masters such as Yogi Bhajan. So could you elaborate a bit more on that experience and maybe some of the other masters that you've had the pleasure to study with, and what were some of the most valuable lessons that you've learned from them?
Yes, Deepak and Marianne Williamson and Ken Wilber. I mean, again, they all add to that dimension. But as I said earlier, Yogi Bhajan was my first teacher. He's no longer alive, but he was a master. And that, God is within you just changes how I show up. Because I say to myself, well, if I'm God, how would I show up? And I would substitute that word for any word that anyone else aspires to be. If I'm compassionate, if I'm brilliant, if I'm understanding, how would I live it? Because I think, and I'll end with this, we frequently have quotes or affirmations that we read, but I think the ultimate test is to live it. I'll even go to Jesus, right? And who I think, Muhammad, the Buddha. If I were, how would I show up? And how do I live being that person? And for me, that's my constant question and constant guide, because I am committed to being the best Michele I can possibly be. I think that's my responsibility. And let me also be clear, holistically, again, and you can see the threads here. So yes, my mind, but also my heart, my entire body. I'm responsible for my health and well-being, which impacts how I show up in every moment of my life. If I feel energetic, if I am healthy, if I'm vibrant, if my immune system is strong, my nervous system is balanced, I show up differently than when I'm overwhelmed and stressed out. So everything is connected to everything. Again, if this is resonating with your listeners, please, re-examine which parts of your life may be adjusted, tweaked, so that, all of it is supporting you. I will just add this comment about support. My ultimate definition of freedom, and I know we have many, no doubt. For me, it's mindfulness. Maybe many have heard about that concept. But for me, mindfulness is to see all the crises and chaos that's going on. For me to have as clear a filter as I look out into the world. So that's my inner work that I do, to clear this so I see it as clearly and not reacting to it and projecting my own stuff onto it. And in that moment that I can see clearly, I get to choose. How do I not react, but respond? And for me, that's freedom, right? So I'm not caught in the collective consciousness and many of us are in fear and hate. It's been with us. It's not new. It's been with us for thousands of years. Let's just say thousands of years. I appreciate that perspective and say, okay, now that I'm seeing this occur, climate, what have you, hate, racism, what part can I play? What difference can I make? And more thoughts are coming to my mind. Again, I don't need to climb Mount Everest. Any small change, a smile to someone as you walk down the street makes a difference. I'll leave it at that.
I love that. Especially, I find myself, sometimes making the conscious effort to even just make polite conversation, an elevator, for example, or to make sure to say good morning or just a hello or a goodbye. You can see that it makes a difference because a lot of the times, and I guess this is quite sad, but a lot of times people don't expect it and they're almost like taken aback by it. It's just something that's pushing out of my comfort zone and it makes a change in myself as well, because then I feel so much better because I know that maybe I made some person's day just by giving them a compliment or acknowledging them. So I really resonate with that. And I'm sure the listeners will as well. You're obviously, as you mentioned, an expert in mindfulness and also neuroscience. For those that might not know a lot about neuroscience, how would those two fields, along with mindfulness, obviously intersect? And what would you say are some practical applications for people to incorporate more mindfulness into their lives?
So we now know much more about the brain than we did 20, 30 years ago. And the term neuroplasticity, many of us also have heard. And the beautiful wisdom there or insights is I can change. I can literally change how I think. We understand that our busy brains think 1,000 thoughts per blink of the eye. So let's just say many. We then choose which we want to focus on. And again, that comes back to the choice, right? The freedom of choice. I'll underscore that. Choice of which thoughts we focus on. So we have fears. We have the need for security or to stay in a bubble. And yet we can, with a proper assessment, smile at someone or just wish them a good day. It doesn't need to impinge on their privacy. These choices of which thought I choose to focus on and therefore respond to makes a huge difference to ourselves and to others. And I would say, again, this has been known as well, to choose a part of the day that is easy for you. You don't want it to be a struggle. But though many advocate early morning because energy is energy, and before the sun comes up, there is a different energy on the planet. But if that doesn't work for you, try later. It's like taking a shower in the morning. So spending a few moments breathing, and let me say consciously breathing. We'd all be dead if we were actually forced to consciously breathe throughout our day. Thank goodness we do it automatically. But the difference in taking that breath consciously, not only in the morning, spending a few minutes, just again, being quiet. Because of course we can imagine if we have a lot of noise going on, which do we hear? What do we hear? It's hard to hear your heartbeat. It's hard to hear the contents of your heart. In those moments of quiet, and we can just be patient. And yes, thoughts will come up. Of course, because we think 1,000 thoughts per blink of the eye. There are a million meditations, and I would just suggest possibly finding one that enables you to be with you, to learn what it means to be your best friend. Because again, when this is healthy and vibrant and joyous, you show up differently. Those are the benefits. I know people say, I can't meditate. Well, the benefits are huge. So find one that serves you. It could be out in nature. The choices are many. Let me just again say, if during the day you're feeling overwhelmed with the stress and the busyness, recognize that if you just take 3 minutes, that slows you down, which literally shifts you from the overwhelm in the limbic system of fight, flight, and freeze. Yes, I'm sorry, that's in the back, to your frontal lobe, where you manage high-level decisions and you can choose versus react. The benefits are huge. Of course, take baby steps. Just do it for a few minutes and see how you feel. Let me say, see how you feel in that moment. We're such a results-oriented society, and we're looking, how did it change my life? There's so much benefit and power in staying in the present. And I can remind everyone, this is the only moment we each have. This is it. It's now. Okay, now it's now, right? So anything we create, so in those moments in the morning, what do you need to do to feel at peace? What do you need to do to just be calm? And it will change. But like anything else with practice, just as you learn to go from crawling to walking, you will master it. It may take a practice, but we know that's what's inherent in change. With certainly 30 days, some say is the minimum, but not a long time, to truly change what could be sabotaging old habits to new supportive ones that are loving and inspire us.
So well said. And I think that it makes such a difference, like you said, to just consciously breathe. And it's funny, as soon as you said it, I caught myself taking a really deep breath. It's such a simple thing, but we just don't even think about it.
Everyone listening to us, take a deep breath now. And actually, if you really only want to do the minimum, just take 3 or 4. I'll go. And just right in this moment, take this opportunity. And that alone will change your nervous system, right? Change the chemicals that are being released. Just give it a try.
It just instantly, you just feel relaxed.
And maybe not. And maybe they won't, but just know that they're shifting. Everything in our body is connected to how we breathe impacts every part of us, our digestive system, you name it. So it's worth that small investment.
Absolutely. So I want to dive into a bit more of some of the amazing achievements that you've had and opportunities. I know that you've conducted a meditation at the UN office of the Brahma Kumaris in celebration of the Commission on the Status of Women. How would you say mindfulness and spirituality intersecting with global issues such as gender equality and climate change? How do you see that happening?
I work with the UN, and there are many groups that I'm part of that we are very involved. And let me just say, it was created in the 50s. I'm pretty sure that's accurate. I think it was after World War II. But we are still nation states. No one should be surprised at that. And so real change is slow. Think about your own life. So if we can look at ourselves and our resistance to change many of us, that need patience. But if we have a strong why, we know the power of that it enables us to overcome the barriers and our resistance to it. So let me just say about the UN slowly, but many of us certainly are advocating greater unity and oneness. I certainly see organizations like Women's Choice, led by Neza Alawi, who are the visionaries and see how change, as again, challenging as it can be, the benefits of it, and introducing women as equals. Yes. And not just because they're a woman, please, because they have something to offer. And let me speak about women in a way that we have traits, and society has told us to persevere and fight and work hard. And those are all wonderful, we see as masculine traits. We're now saying, look at the opposite side of the same coin. And how do you feel about when someone is empathetic and listening and kind and forgiving and more flexible? And that's never for me an either or. My favorite word in the English language is a 3-letter word, and, A-N-D. Let us recognize that when we bring both of these qualities within us humans, it's magical. One situation doesn't require only one or the other. How can we balance and harmonize them? Which is what Neza does in Women's Choice, and says, yes, let me help people enhance their soft skills, which let me give you a quote from my old alma mater at Citi. Jane Fraser, the CEO, said, and it's not an exact quote, but basically she says that empathy is not a soft skill, but a hard skill. I don't care which you call it. However, she proceeded to say that as a result of her inculcating that more into Citi, they have a competitive advantage and are now an employer of choice. And as many organizations may be looking for true talent, right? Not just to fill a seat. And we know the cost of rehiring and retraining. But when we inculcate empathy and that those, what Jane calls harder skills, but many of us call soft skills, people stay, they're retained, and they add to the bottom line immeasurably, right? So I would say what we see as new, yes, the inhale, the effort it takes to inhale, and truly a breath in your belly, if you remember how children or your children breathe, and expanding, your lungs, is the effort, is the masculine. And what happens next? We exhale, we release. It's the feminine. There is no separation. So again, the masculine and feminine is organic to all of us and our being. Obviously, once again, if you say, well, how does that connect to spirituality? I think many of us know when we stop breathing, there's something breathing us. There is that sense of life that's giving us life. Spirit, call it what you wish, that's interconnected with all of it.
That's a really, really interesting take on it. And I've actually never really thought about the women equality to be seen in that particular way, the traits that we have, because of course it's always painted in a negative light when you get called emotional, so that you're not able to take hard decisions and so on. But I think it couldn't be further from the truth. And I just love the way you put it. So it's something for all of us to really consider and take with us proudly. I also wanted to discuss the book that you had co-authored called Conscious Entrepreneurs, A Radical New Approach to Purpose, Passion, and Profit. Could you share some inspiration behind this book and some of the key takeaways for aspiring conscious entrepreneurs?
It really goes to the old model of profit only. No doubt that has worked well for the 1% of us, but it hasn't really worked well for the 8 billion of us. We're almost there, 8 billion of us on the planet. And so I would say the way I've summarized it, when I say a radical new approach to purpose, passion, and profit, when I'm teaching, it's saying instead of the 1P profit, the 4P. So it is profit, people, planet, and purpose. And so you can see from the words, you're expanding. No doubt profit is essential. That's how businesses stay alive, and we all benefit from that, no doubt. But again, to add the people component, how do we help each other become the best us possible? Polls now tell us that people see their managers as more influential in their lives, and they're even partners. That's what a part many managers are playing. And yet, again, the polls, I think this was Gallup, who indicated that the managers felt that what they were providing was well received and they were thinking we're doing a good job 70, 80% of the time. However, there was a gap because the employees only felt that it was provided 40% of the time. And so I will say again, culture within your business absolutely helps people change from, and I'm sure others know this, quiet quitting. Yes, you show up for your job, but you're not very productive and you're doing the bare minimum. That when managers inspire and listen and help people have a voice and they feel belonging. I know this is what many of us already know. Let me just underscore the element of listening. Listening. We're wonderful talkers and we have talk shows. Not too many listen shows. I hope people are listening to us, however. Just practice. Let me give a tip for listening because I think it's so essential. I would say just being aware, I'll thread with the smile. So as you're listening to your employee, you can give silent without interrupting them, just nods and a smile that suggests, I'm listening to you. I'm going to give another quote. The Dalai Lama said, the greatest gift we can give anyone is the gift of being heard. So please don't underestimate the power of just listening. If you've heard something that I appreciate you may not agree with, no doubt. Thank goodness. Should we all be thinking and saying the same thing? I don't know that we'd find it very interesting at the end of the day. That another way to not necessarily agree, but simply ask questions. How did you come to have that point of view? Or what experience? Or maybe it's as simple as, can you tell me more? Just can you tell me more? That's part of what I do. I'm a communication expert. I'm an expert at Women's Choice with Neza Alawi. And we help people learn these very small but priceless tips that go from someone not being heard or listened to. Again, not necessarily agreeing with, but at least understood. And in the world of polarization, I think this is essential, not only for us to survive, but to thrive.
I agree with that so much. And I really appreciate the tips that you've given in terms of being a manager. And I think we can definitely use that in our personal relationships as well, because a lot of the times the easiest people to show your disapproval or upset is with the people that you're closest to, so family members and so on. So sometimes the most important thing we can do is also to hear them out and to take everything with a smile and give them a chance to come and explain where they're coming from. So it's definitely wonderful tips for all aspiring entrepreneurs and just general people.
Let me just have one additional idea. When we, as parents, do anything, we're modeling that behavior. Again, as parents, we know that if I do something once, that will not have a pattern and clarity for a child. But if we are consistent, we do it over and over. So again, even with family or your employees, be that model. And I promise you that over time, they will see it. And what science indicates is that once you open the space for them, they then feel it and open the space for you. That's literally what occurs. Again, it requires, I know we're always wanting results, so why don't you just do what I just did? It doesn't work that way. Think of your children. You need to be that model more consistently, and then the child goes, that's it, right? And that's how you made them feel. You made them feel heard, and they can therefore want to return that.
Absolutely. I love that. So, Michele, it's been so wonderful learning about all your achievements and all the amazing things that you've learned over your life that you're sharing with all of us. And we've actually come to a segment of the show where I would like to play a little game with you that we call the rapid fire questions. So if you're ready, we'll start off with maybe this one will be easy, maybe not. Hopefully it is. Who would you say is your biggest inspiration?
Oh, so many people. Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, if that's okay to do 3.
Yes. If you could have a conversation with any person in the world, dead or alive, who would you choose?
I would love to have a conversation with Gandhi.
Amazing. This one's a bit more generic. Are you a coffee or a tea drinker or both?
I drink coffee in the morning and I love tea in the evening.
You don't have a favorite?
I really love coffee in the morning.
Perfect. What would you say is your definition of success?
Joy.
Okay, so thank you for playing along. And just before we wrap up, we've come to the most anticipated question of the show, which is your green pill moment. So, Michelle, if you could share an inspiring or a life-changing experience that you have gone through that was your green pill moment.
I had a perfect life by most measures, a lovely home in Manhattan, New York, a business that I loved, impressive credentials by most people's sense of it, dear, dear friends all over the world, Dubai, Italy, Canada, but best friends you can rely on. I've traveled extensively to about 45 different countries, and that's after taking a hiatus for 10 years when I couldn't leave my dog. My last country that I traveled to was Iceland, and the way I travel is to get up, go, and not plan. And so I was really quite healthy and strong, but something was really missing, and I really felt unfulfilled. And so that moment, I have a large ficus tree in my living room, was lying under it. And at the top of my voice, I said, I'm committing to living a magnificent life, and this ain't it. And maybe others can relate to having the accoutrements, but still feeling empty. And within 6 months, I was diagnosed with cancer. And no doubt it was challenging. I would say it confronted my beliefs head on. Meaning, was I going to live my beliefs? And how was I going to show up through this process? And after, a little bit, I said, I'm going to trust me. I'm going to trust my soul. And I do deeply believe in this very generous universe. I would say from that experience, I went through it with just no doubt in my mind that, and I'll say this clearly, I was not fighting my cancer. I did the conventional as well as the alternative. And as one of my 5 energy healers said, Michelle, see your tumor as your beloved. And I say it like that so it shook me when I heard it. And it goes to, Shirin, the belief that the most powerful thing on the planet is love. And love heals. And so I offer to anyone going through any health challenge or any challenge, instead of, again, that negative fighting and killing and destroying, to recognize that if you can shift that to something far more positive. And so it taught me unconditional love. Again, I knew of it. How could I love me and my tumor unconditionally, even though that wasn't, of course, my first reaction? And it changed how I saw people and how I saw life. I'm still learning and applying, of course, the lessons, but more than ever, and I'll say this to someone who may be not looking at their life, there's wonder to realizing, what if I only had 6 months to live? What would I do? I think we all know we're going to die, but we take for granted this day and the next, this moment and the next. And what a gift, Shirin, what a gift to be said, no, now look at life differently and not take it for granted, and how precious it truly is, and live with that appreciation and gratitude. I would say it gave me much appreciation and strength and freedom.
So firstly, it sounds like you've definitely had an extremely life-changing experience, which was also inspiring. And I've actually never heard of someone kind of approach the idea of a tumor in that way. So, my first instinct was to praise you for going through this challenging time, because I guess it's almost like that's how we've all been taught to approach any such health challenges. So that's definitely a different take on it. And even for me, it's hard to really grasp how somebody going through something like that is able to really love the thing that's technically not something that we are, trained to love. And then it's something that most feel upset with and hurt by, and why me, or all these questions that generally people ask. So it's such a different approach. And I guess, would you say that it was an extremely challenging thing for you to accept?
No doubt it was physically challenging. However, I would say it was also mentally and emotionally and spiritually challenging. That's the gift. And I just want to underscore understanding what you said about loving something that's killing us. And I just offer again to everyone listening, just try it. Imagine that you're really angry at someone and you're looking to do them harm, and somehow you feel love from them. Like they know you're looking to harm them, and all you can feel from them is love. How would that change you? I can see your smile. Really is powerful, and it really has a power beyond words. There's no downside to it. Now, listen, I'm not suggesting someone's about to harm you physically and you're going to just smile. Please, I'm not being silly. I mean, we need self-defense and security. Of course, you can understand that's not what I'm speaking about.
Absolutely, of course. I think people that would focus on it in that way are probably not really keen to really listen to what you're saying. So hopefully that everybody that is listening will understand exactly what you mean and in what way, as did I for sure. It's really incredible that you could go through such an experience and come out of it with so much love and positivity and want to bring the same for other people. I guess most of us aspire to do even, 1% of that. So thank you for everything that you're doing and for continuing to spread that message.
Well, if I can add, I have found that everything in life has both. If we just breathe and pause and say, I know something good is here. I don't see it right now, but I'm open to being revealed. I'm open to seeing it. And I'm saying if you just bring that open-mindedness, we spoke about mindfulness, it may not be apparent in that moment, please, no doubt, but with that open-mindedness, more and more of life's generosity will be revealed. And for survival, we see what's harmful, okay? I want to see the tiger that's about to attack me. Understood. In life, there's always, at least that's the lesson from my green pill moment, that with that negativity or challenge, if you will, comes the positive if we're just willing to see.
So well said. Michele, I've had such a fantastic conversation. So thank you so much for sharing your story and all the wisdom that you've kindly spread on this podcast. I'm sure so many people will resonate with a lot of what you said and hopefully feel inspired as well. So just before we say goodbye, I would love if you could share with the listeners how they could possibly reach you, maybe on your LinkedIn or email, and we'll definitely leave that in the show notes as well.
Thank you. So let me spell my name because you can find me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/IN/ and my name is Michele, spelled Michele, 1L, last name, 4 letters, Risa, spelled Risa. Please reach out to me, and with any questions, happy to answer or provide other resources for anyone who resonated with any of what I've shared. And if you'd like also to email me, it's also a simple email. It's just my first initial M for Michele, just the initial M, my last name, Risa, the number 11 @gmail.com. Okay, so mrisa11@gmail.com. Again, have questions, anything I can provide, be my pleasure to answer them and assist and support you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So thank you once again for joining me today. And I wish you all the very best with the continuation of your amazing and inspiring journey.
Thank you. It's been a delight being with you. It really has.
If you enjoy our conversations, please like and subscribe. See you next Wednesday.